There's something about this stage of the season that just messes with your head if you follow Celtic. One minute you're staring at the table thinking it's slipping away, the next you're doing the maths again and realizing it's still very much alive. That's exactly where things stand right now. It doesn't feel comfortable, it doesn't feel controlled, but somehow, against all odds, Celtic are right there, still hanging on in this title race with everything to play for. And the strangest part is trying to figure out how we're all supposed to feel about it. Because if you've been watching this team closely, you'll know it hasn't exactly been smooth sailing. There have been moments where the football has been frustrating, even infuriating at times, and you're left wondering how a side with this much quality can look so disjointed. Then out of nowhere, a moment changes everything. One goal, one flash of composure, and suddenly the narrative shifts again. That has been the story over the past few months. It's been unpredictable, emotional, and at times exhausting, but crucially, it has kept Celtic in the fight. What's really interesting now is the shift in belief among the supporters. Not long ago, there was a sense of resignation creeping in, like the title might just be drifting out of reach. But that mood has changed. It's not quite full confidence yet, maybe not even close, but there's definitely a growing feeling that this is still doable. When you look at the table, being just 3 points off the top at this stage is significant. It means everything is still within touching distance, and when you factor in the fixtures ahead, the door is very much open. And yet, there's that constant doubt sitting in the background. It's like every bit of optimism comes with a warning attached. You can see a path to the title, you can map it out, you can convince yourself it's there for the taking, but at the same time, it feels like it could unravel at any moment. That's the emotional roller coaster Celtic fans have been riding. It's the contrast between what this team could be and what it sometimes shows on the pitch that creates that tension. Take the most recent match as a perfect example. For large spells, there was intensity, there was purpose, there were glimpses of the kind of football that supporters have been craving. The pressing looked sharper, the movement more aggressive, and it felt like Celtic were beginning to impose themselves the way you'd expect. But then the game shifted, and once again, uncertainty crept in. The performance dipped, the control faded, and suddenly it became another battle rather than a statement. Still, the result went Celtic's way, and at this stage, that's the part that carries the most weight. There's always that debate about performances versus results, especially when you're chasing a title. Ideally, you want both. You want dominance, control, and convincing victories that build momentum. But the reality of where Celtic are right now might be different. It might just come down to getting the job done, however it looks, however it feels. Because when you break it all down, the situation is actually quite clear. When the remaining matches, and the title becomes a real possibility. It sounds simple when you say it like that, but of course, nothing about this run-in is going to be simple. Every match carries pressure, every point matters, and every mistake could be costly. But that's the nature of a title race, especially one as tight and unpredictable as this. There's also the wider context to consider, and it adds another layer to everything. This season hasn't been one where the top teams have consistently dominated week after week. Points have been dropped across the board, and that inconsistency is exactly why Celtic are still in the mix. It hasn't taken perfection to stay close, just resilience and the ability to capitalize when others slip. And that's where things start to get really interesting. If Celtic can find a way to string together results, even without hitting top form, there's every chance the table starts to swing in their favor. The margins are so fine that one good weekend, one slip from a rival, can completely change the outlook. That's why every match from here on feels massive. It's not just about Celtic's performance. It's about how everything connects across the league. The idea that this run-in feels like a series of cup finals isn't just a cliche in this case. It genuinely reflects the situation. There's no sense of building momentum over weeks and weeks. Instead, it feels like everything resets after each game. The focus narrows, the pressure sharpens, and all that matters is the next 90 minutes. Win that, and you move forward. Drop points, and the consequences could be immediate. At the same time, there are still so many unanswered questions about this team. Can they raise their level in the biggest moments? Can they deliver the kind of performance that not only gets a result, but sends a message? Or is this going to be a grind all the way to the finish line, where nothing comes easy and every victory has to be fought for? What gives a bit of encouragement is the potential within the squad. There are players who haven't quite hit their stride yet, players who could still have a huge say in how this season ends. The return of certain individuals could add a different dimension, bring fresh energy, and maybe provide that spark that has been missing at times. But it has to be managed carefully, because throwing players back in without rhythm or sharpness carries its own risks. All of this builds into a picture that is both exciting and nerve-wracking at the same time. There's a genuine opportunity here, no doubt about that. But there's also a sense that nothing can be taken for granted. Every game will test this team in different ways, mentally as much as physically. The belief is starting to grow again. You can feel that, but it's still fragile, still dependent on what happens next every single time Celtic step onto the pitch. And maybe that's what makes this run so compelling. It's not about a team cruising towards the title with everything under control. It's about uncertainty, about pressure, about moments that can define an entire season. Celtic are right in the middle of that, holding on, pushing forward, and knowing that if they can just find that extra level when it matters most, everything could still fall into place. When you start digging a bit deeper into how this season has actually unfolded, it becomes even clearer why everything still feels so open. It's not just about Celtic finding moments when it matters. It's about the fact that none of the teams around them have managed to put together a consistent run that truly separates them from the rest. Week after week, points have been dropped in unexpected places, and that has kept the entire title race alive in a way that very few people would have predicted earlier in the campaign. If you look across the fixtures that have already been played, there's a pattern that stands out straight away. It's incredibly rare for all the top sides to win on the same weekend. That alone tells you everything about the volatility of this league season. Instead of one team building a commanding lead, it's been a constant exchange of opportunities, with each side giving the others a way back into contention. And Celtic, despite all the frustrations, have managed to stay close enough to take advantage of that. That's why the focus now shifts almost entirely to control. Not control in the sense of dominating every match from start to finish, but control over results. If Celtic can just take care of their own business, the probability suggests that the table will begin to tilt in their favor. It might not happen immediately, it might not even feel convincing, but over the course of these remaining matches, consistency in results could be enough to make the difference. There's also something about playing at home that could become absolutely crucial in this run-in. The contrast between home and away performances across the league has been striking, not just for Celtic, but for every side involved in the race. Teams have generally been stronger, more confident, and more effective in front of their own supporters. That makes the upcoming schedule particularly interesting, because having more matches at Celtic Park could quietly become one of the biggest advantages in this entire title fight. But even with that in mind, there's no sense that anything will come easily. Every match feels like it's going to be tight, tense, and decided by fine margins. Even against sides that, on paper, might look more manageable, there's still that expectation of a battle. That's just the nature of where things are right now. The pressure doesn't allow for comfortable afternoons or routine victories. Everything has to be earned, sometimes the hard way. And that brings us back to the idea of performance levels. It's one thing grinding out results, but there's always that question hanging in the air about whether this level will be enough when the biggest matches arrive. Because those games, the ones against direct rivals, carry a different kind of intensity. They demand more focus, more quality, and often a level of composure that hasn't always been there consistently this season. At the same time, there's a strange sense that those occasions might actually bring out the best in this Celtic side. Football doesn't always follow logic, and sometimes it's the matches with the highest stakes that produce the sharpest performances. There's a belief that when everything is on the line, when the atmosphere is at its peak and the pressure is unavoidable, certain players will rise to that challenge. That possibility alone keeps the optimism alive. Looking ahead, the structure of the remaining fixtures adds another layer of intrigue. The split is approaching, and with it comes a completely different dynamic. The margins get even tighter, the matchups more intense, and every decision around scheduling and balance becomes significant. There's always debate around how those fixtures are arranged, but one thing is certain, they will shape the final stretch of the season in a major way. There's been plenty of discussion about how those post-split matches might look, where the key games will fall, and how that could impact the title race. Some scenarios suggest a dramatic finish, where everything could come down to the final days, possibly even a direct clash with everything on the line. It's the kind of situation that brings excitement, but also raises the stakes to another level entirely. At the same time, there's a need to block out the noise that comes with all that speculation. It's easy to get caught up in potential scenarios, to start thinking too far ahead, but the reality is much simpler. None of it matters if the results don't come first. The foundation of any title challenge is built on taking points consistently, and without that, all the possibilities disappear quickly. What stands out most right now is how fine the margins are. One goal, one decision, one moment of quality can completely change the direction of a match, and by extension, the direction of the title race. Celtic have already experienced that in recent weeks, and it's likely to continue all the way through to the end of the season. That unpredictability is what makes everything feel so tense, but also so alive. There's also an emotional side to all of this that can't be ignored. Supporters are desperate for a performance that truly convinces, a display that removes doubt and replaces it with belief. Those moments have been rare this season, and that's why there's still a sense of hesitation, even when results go the right way. It's not just about winning, it's about feeling like the team is ready to take control of the situation. And yet, despite all of that, Celtic are still right there, still within reach, still capable of turning this into something special. That's what makes this stage of the season so compelling. It's not perfect, it's not comfortable, but it's full of possibility. Every match carries weight, every performance adds to the story, and with each passing week, the tension continues to build as everything edges closer to a decisive moment. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. A whisper has begun to gather pace across the Scottish football landscape, and it centers on a claim as startling as it is contentious. Former Celtic boss Brendan Rodgers is said to have made a brutally honest admission in private circles, allegedly naming Daizen Maeda as the poorest player he worked with during his time in Glasgow. The remark, if true, cuts sharply against the grain of popular opinion. Maeda, known for his relentless pressing, tireless work rate, and unwavering commitment to the cause, has long been viewed by supporters as a player who embodies the very spirit of Celtic's modern identity. Yet rumors now suggest Rodgers saw things differently behind closed doors. Sources close to the situation hint that Rodgers' supposed criticism was not necessarily rooted in effort or attitude, but rather in technical limitations. It is believed he may have questioned Maeda's composure in front of goal and decision-making in key moments, areas that, at times, have divided opinion among fans and pundits alike. Still, the claim has sparked fierce debate. Many within the Celtic faithful would find it difficult to accept such a harsh judgment of a player who consistently gave everything on the pitch. Others, however, may quietly acknowledge that Maeda's raw energy has occasionally been accompanied by a lack of finesse. It is important to note that no formal statement has been made publicly by Rodgers on the matter, leaving the story firmly in the realm of speculation. Football, after all, is no stranger to dressing room tales and second-hand revelations that take on a life of their own. Whether there is truth behind the rumor or not, one thing is certain. Such a claim, if ever confirmed, would add a fascinating and controversial chapter to Rodgers' Celtic legacy, while casting a new and unexpected light on one of the squad's most industrious figures. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.